My government will never lose sight of its pledge to undertake relevant institutional and legal reforms in accordance with global standards and best practice.
The leader reiterates commitment to institutional and legal reforms as he presided over the swearing-in of newly appointed judges. Tunisia's central bank provides financial support to businesses amid global pandemic. Stakeholders in Gambia's tourism sector express frustration over closure of businesses. These and more coming on the wall today. Do stay tuned. It's 17:35 GMT in our studios in Banjul. I am Juldenjai Suare. Many thanks for joining us. And now to the news in detail. President Adama Barrow has said that his government will never lose sight of its pledges to undertake relevant institutional and legal reforms in accordance with global standards and best practices. The Gambian leader was speaking at the State House on Thursday as he presided over the swearing-in of newly appointed Supreme Court judges, President of the Court of Appeal, the Judicial Secretary, the Ombudsman, and the Minister of Youth and Sports. Detail of that in this report. The Gambia government began a host of reform programs that included institutional and legal reform processes since 2017. But the pace at which the reforms are taking place has been described as very slow. On Thursday, President Adama Barrow presided over the swearing-in of judges and other officials, saying his government is in a continuous search for citizens to join the strengthening of national institutions and governance structure.
The appointment of these Gambians as Supreme Court judges, President of the Court of Appeal, Judicial Secretary, Ombudsman, the Minister respectively, clearly shows that as Gambian citizens, we have a lot of work to do together in order to achieve our national objectives and targets through our various institutions.
Adama Barrow said there is a need to review laws and procedures and to continually improve output by creating and maintaining a positive attitude to work and nation building. He said while the executive and the legislature are influenced by politics, Gambians should not lose sight of national interests.
It causes imbalance for the remaining two, while the executive and the legislature are influenced by politics. We should not lose sight of the national interests in whatever we do. We must not allow politics to overshadow our national interests or undermine our institutions. With this in mind, let us work together, for it is the surest way of building appropriate systems that work for all. Individuals may come and go, but the institutions stay. I am optimistic that we will continue to work in harmony for the realization of the ideals of our national constitution and the successful implementation of government policies and strategies as spelled out in the National Development Plan.
I, Justice Awaba, having been appointed as Justice Supreme Court of the Republic of the Gambia.
Speaking shortly after taking her oath of office, Supreme Court Judge Justice Awaba promised to contribute to the justice delivery system to the best of their ability. Justice Awaba urged the Barrow-led administration to continue to give the judiciary the needed support if they want to achieve and maintain an exemplary judiciary.
A highly respected judiciary is no doubt key in measuring any modern democracy with respect for the rule of law. Today we are proud to say that the judiciary of the Gambia under the new Gambia has for the first time in its history not only a Supreme Court with a full panel of 5 judges who are all Gambians, but also a Court of Appeal with an unprecedented full complement of Gambian judges.
The new Minister of Youth and Sports, Bakari Y. Baji, said, "Today's realities require young people to actively participate in the public administration and the implementation of national youth and sport policy with a view to attain the goals and objectives of the National Development Plan."
Thus, it is my wish to turn our youth folk into a leading force of the state, to ensure their participation in the solution of the socio-economic development of this country. Equally, it is my sincere desire to attain the maximum participation and excellence in sports and sporting activities at the local and international levels.
Mr. Baji said he is hopeful that the youth of the country will grow up knowing that they are the priority of the government. He also promises to embrace the hopes and appeals of the young people. For iAfrica News, I am Juldenjai Suare. Gambian leader Adama Barrow reiterates government commitment towards legal and institutional reforms. Now, the mayor of the Kanifing Municipal Council, Talib Ahmed Bensouda, in partnership with GAMWorks, has on Thursday inaugurated the new built stores at Latrikunda Market. The newly built 70-store market structure is part of the $110 million project with GAMWorks that encompasses many other projects, including roads, the Bundung Maternity Ward, and the Kanifing Town Hall.
We have come here today to inaugurate, in partnership with GAMWorks, the Latrikunda Sabiji Market. This is part of our $110 million project with GAMWorks that encompasses many projects, including roads, Bundung Maternity Ward, our town hall at KMC, and of course, the beautiful Latrikunda Sabiji Market. We are very grateful to the partnership of GAMWorks under the leadership of Mr. Ibrahim Acham, and we look forward to many projects in the future.
Talib Ahmed Bensouda inaugurates a multi-million-dollar market facility at Latrikunda Sabiji. Now, the newly adopted online learning system in Nigeria is causing challenges for both students and teachers. More than 10 million children are out of school in the West African nation, and the number is on the rise, according to the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF. Ahead of the reopening of schools, teachers are demanding better preparations. Details of that in this report.
Nigeria's education system faced many problems way before the coronavirus pandemic hit the country. The UN's Children's Agency, UNICEF, estimates that 10.5 million Nigerian children are out of school, and the figures are steadily rising. Online education has replaced learning in classrooms, and many more children have been.
Now, after lifting some coronavirus restrictions, Saudi Arabia has on Sunday hosted a limited number of pilgrims cycling around the holiest city in Mecca. The kingdom downsized Hajj pilgrims and suspended the Umrah in July due to the concerns of escalating the spread of the coronavirus. A maximum number of 6,000 pilgrims are allowed to enter the Grand Mosque. However, Saudi Arabia citizens and residents will be permitted to enter the mosque during the first phase of reopening. Other citizens and residents will perform pilgrimage in the second phase from October 18 with a maximum number of 15,000 pilgrims. Meanwhile, Muslims globally will be allowed to perform the Umrah as early as the 1st of November, according to the authorities. Tropically, before the emergence of the virus, the mosque will be placed by millions of people from all over the world. Our Amadou Kante spoke to Ibrahim Musa, a professor of Islamic studies at the University of Notre Dame, Indiana States, USA.
Thank you very much, Professor, for joining me. Now, how significant is the reopening of pilgrimage to Muslims in Mecca?
Extremely significant, given the fact that Saudi Arabia of the Gulf had closed down mosques and the Grand Mosque in Mecca and Medina because of the COVID-19 transmission and the virus. It seemed that Saudi Arabia had learned from its limited Hajj experience in July that it can manage the minor pilgrimage known as the Umrah under certain circumstances with a limited number of people, a trial period now between now and November for local people and for permanent residents, and then open up their facilities for international pilgrimage.
All right. Now, Professor, now considering that Hajj is an important pillar in Islam and many could not attend this year due to COVID-19, are there, alternative rituals the intending pilgrims could have done?
There's no replacement for the Hajj. The Hajj remains the Hajj. It only happens at a certain time of the year. So pilgrims who intended to do the Hajj in 2020 will have to prepare themselves for whenever this opportunity arises. It's unclear how Hajj in 2021 will look like. But if people have the means and want to do the minor pilgrimage, they could apply. But you must know that this will be a limited number of people who will be selected for the Umrah, and it cannot be an unlimited number. So, for instance, in the past, you had more than 100,000 pilgrims at a time in the Grand Mosque, if not more, depending on the traffic. This time it will be largely limited because they have to do so under social distancing circumstances, under repeated sanitizing, and so on. And all this also depends on the ways and the kinds of medicines and that we will have in 2021, whether there'll be a vaccine, whether there'll be a ways to immunize ourselves against this horrible virus. So all that is still up in the air. The other matter is also that even experts tell us that even if we do have the virus, we will still have to adopt certain procedures and practices in order to avoid transmission.
You were, of course, talking about the measures there now, but of course, Saudi has more than 3,000 COVID-19 cases, of which nearly, 5,000 have, died. Now, it is wise, for Saudi government to reopen the pilgrimage to the world by next month when there are still a lot of cases globally.
Yeah, look, there's an uptick in cases globally. And I think that the Saudi authorities will keep their eye on the level of spread, which areas are hot zones. You are correct to say that Saudi Arabia itself was a hot zone in the Gulf area, and it had the highest numbers of mortalities as a result of COVID-19. So yes, they will be sensitive. I think they will be taking care of, the measures that they've adopted, and possibly will have to review it. I think what they have signaled is their intention and how they want to deal with people domestically, how they can come and do Umrah under certain circumstances, and with the hope that we'll also open it up in November. As you know, going for Umrah is in the hearts of around the world. Obviously, this will be limited, and there's a big question. How are they going to select the people that they're going to give a visa for to do the Umrah?
Ibrahim Musa, a professor of Islamic Studies at the University of Notre Dame, Indiana State, USA. Many thanks for your time.
Thank you.
We will now take our first break and come back for the remaining of our stories. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. This is the World Today News Bulletin, and now to the rest of our stories. Tourism is an important pillar of Gambia's $1 billion economy. It is the second biggest contributor to the country's GDP and has helped thousands of youths gain meaningful employment. However, the tourism sector has been completely ravaged by the coronavirus global pandemic. Our reporter Ibrahim John visited the tourism industry and files in this report.
As is the case with businesses and the health sector, the COVID-19 pandemic has a severe impact on tourism. According to a UNDP policy brief published in April, tourism supports over 42,000 direct jobs and another 40,000 jobs indirectly. Several staff working in hotels, restaurants, and safari lodges across the country have been left redundant and no longer have the financial muscle to meet their domestic bills. Lian Sala, a citizen of the Netherlands, has been the proprietress of Poco Loco Bar and Restaurant for 7 years now and has lived in the Gambia for 24 years. Madam Sala, who is also the owner of Africa Adventure Tours, told iAfrica TV that the COVID-19 lockdown has negatively impacted her business. This forced the lady entrepreneur to maintain only 10% of her staff while the rest wait for the corona dust to settle. Lian said if markets are allowed to operate, then businesses within the tourism industry should be permitted to function.
Well, I think if you can open a market, especially the Lumo markets I heard yesterday, and if you go to Serakunda market, there's no social distancing there. There's nothing when it comes to hygiene and washing hands and wearing masks and all of those things, and people are very crowded together. I think if that is allowed, then I think these establishments should be fully allowed to be fully opened, because there's a lot of air here, there's a lot of space here, so you can set up and...
The tourism industry, a major contributor to Gambia's $1 billion economy, began a total shutdown from March 2020 when the first case of the coronavirus was confirmed in the country, according to Mansa Banco online website. As a result, the Gambia's hospitality industry and allied sectors could lose up to $6.7 billion, according to a rapid assessment on the impact of the coronavirus on tourism conducted by the Gambia Bureau of Statistics. The Gambia government has imposed strict restrictions that included the closure of land, sea borders, and airspace. Abdullah Sonko, the Secretary General of Jarma Car Park, said the tourist taxi drivers are the first people to feel the financial challenges brought about the COVID-19 lockdown.
Anyway, COVID-19 affects our business. I can even say we are the first victim of COVID-19 here in the Gambia, because we, the Tourist Taxi Association, we depend on tourism. And since this COVID-19 started, there was no tourism in the Gambia. So we have no business. Almost, I think, it's 7 or 8 months. We are sitting, no business, nothing. It's working, absolutely. Maybe if there will be any source of income we are depending on at the moment, maybe will be the friends we had in Europe. So they will be the ones sending us maybe fish money, let me just say fish money, and a little bit to sustain ourselves for the COVID-19.
With tourism generating up to $85 million in foreign exchange earnings last year, making it the largest foreign exchange earner for the country, the sector also attracted more than $45 million in foreign investment over the last 5 years, according to the UNDP. The Gambia government tried a bailout plan of $100 million, but those who spoke to iAfrica TV said they are yet to receive money from the Ministry of Tourism. Players in the sector are not happy with the delay in reopening of tourism-related businesses, especially small business owners who have been the hardest hit. Ajik Sise, a Sierra Leonean national, is a staff of the Manus Mediterranean restaurant and VIP cocktail bar. Sise told iAfrica TV that he and his colleagues are not happy about the continuous closure of their business.
You know, you can look at the street, there is no boys around. You know, and also too, the restaurants all are closed, and people are not happy. Even me, number one to me, I'm not so very happy with that, because here I work for me to have a delivery, at least I can look after myself and my family.
The global outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic, which began in China's city of Wuhan in mid-December 2019, is weighing down the projected continued growth of the tourism industry, according to Mansa Banco Online. Hotels have remained empty for the greater part of 2020 after weeks of tourist evacuations, cancellation of flights, and hotel bookings. What is now left of the tourism industry is empty hotel rooms, lodges, and safari camps. The Gambia government said it is planning to reopen the tourism industry this month, but it has yet to set a date. The question is whether tourists will want to fly into the smiling coast of Africa when the pandemic is still spreading and claiming lives globally. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Ibrahim John.
Players in Gambia's tourism industry express frustration over job loss due to COVID-19 pandemic. With that, now we move on to Tunisia, because Tunisia's central bank is committing monetary support for the recovery of businesses from the economic challenges brought about by the COVID-19 global pandemic. The board of directors of the country's highest financial institution said the move is necessitated to lessen or to lose the financial burden on businesses and households. Authorities are working on measures to create favorable conditions for businesses. Detail of that in this report.
The board of directors of the Central Bank of Tunisia explained that it deemed it necessary to continue to strengthen monetary support for the emerging economic recovery by deciding to lower its key interest rate by 50 base points to 6.25% for the main refinancing operations, 5.25% for the overnight deposit facility, and 7.25% for the marginal lending facility.
This decision should support the easing of monetary policy adopted since the outbreak of the pandemic and also lighten the financial burden of loans granted to businesses and households, helping them preserve their solvency. That is the ability of a company to meet its long-term debts and financial obligations and thus contribute to financial stability.
Experts argue that the lowering of the benchmark rate should support domestic demand, with prospects of a recovery in consumer demand, but risks still remain.
The current economic and social crisis has pushed Tunisian households to reduce consumption. That's how family savings have increased in 2020. If the situation improves, then domestic demand will follow. However, a second wave of the pandemic could paralyze consumption, and the central bank will have to intervene once again.
Members of the Finance Commission at the House of the People's Representatives said that the central bank's outstanding medium and long-term loans granted to businesses continued on an almost generalized gradual upward trend.
The coronavirus crisis hit hard the Tunisian and the global economy. Small and medium-sized enterprises suffered considerably. The central bank's recent move will help create favorable conditions for businesses and revive investment so as to restore the pace of economic activity.
According to the latest data released by the Central Bank of Tunisia, there was a generalized recovery in loans to individuals. The bank recorded 3.4% in the year ended July 2020, the highest level since February 2019. The Executive Board of the Central Bank of Tunisia reaffirmed its determination to continue to take the necessary measures in light of financial and economic developments. Experts assert that this period will be marked by the negative impact of the second wave of the pandemic on the country's economy.
The United Nations Secretary General has urged governments to invest more in the health system as he launched COVID-19 and universal health convergence policy. According to the UN chief, the world was never prepared for the global pandemic. Detail in this report by our Amadou Kante.
The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has said that the world was not prepared for the COVID-19 pandemic, which for the past 9 months has infected more than 30 million people in 119 countries, and territories and infections are still rising. The United Nations chief was speaking on Wednesday at the launch of the COVID-19 and universal health coverage policy. He noted that one of the lessons from the crisis is that underinvestment in health can have a devastating impact on society and economies.
COVID-19 has shown that universal health coverage, strong public health systems, and emergency preparedness are essential to communities, to economies, to everyone. That is the backdrop to the policy brief we are launching today. At least half the world's people do not have access to the health services they need. Some 100 million people are driven into poverty each year by catastrophic healthcare costs.
Universal health coverage is defined as a situation where all individuals and communities receive the health services they need without undue financial hardship. Mr. Guterres also said the pandemic has severely ravaged the world economy, leading to millions losing their jobs.
The pandemic is costing the global economy $335 billion a month. Some 500 million jobs have been lost so far. Human development is going into reverse for the first time since we started measuring it in 1990.
As the world envisages a lasting solution for the pandemic, the UN boss highlighted major recommendations in a brief policy that includes protecting delivery of other health services during the pandemic.
COVID-19 is indirectly killing people with heart disease and cancer as well as those it infects. And access to mental health services and sexual and reproductive health programs cannot be compromised. Fourth, we need to ensure everyone, everywhere, has access to future COVID-19 vaccines, tests and treatment.
At least half of the world's population still do not have full coverage of essential health services. Over 800 million people spend at least 10% of their household budgets to pay for health, according to the World Health Organization. Reporting for Africa News, I am Amadou Kante.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, they are urging governments to invest more in the health system as he launched the COVID-19 and universal health coverage policy. Now we have come to the end of the World Today News Bulletin, but for more of these and others, you can join our iAfrica.tv. Thanks for the pleasure of your company and do have a pleasant evening. Bye-bye.